Welcome back to another review where we're tracking the comeback of one of movies' greatest superstars, Dolph Lundgren. For real though, this is Creed 2. It stars Dolph Lundgren, Sylvester Stallone, Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, Florian Munteanu, and a cast of other people that you're probably familiar with from previous Rocky/Creed films. Now, as always, there's probably going to be some spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the film, maybe stop watching now and save it for later, or if you're not that fussed, just watch it. I'll try and keep them to a minimum, but I won't promise anything. I'll see how it goes in the edit. So I saw two films today, as you're probably aware if you did watch yesterday's video about Aquaman. Feel free to hit the link or whatever and go back and watch that if you haven't watched that yet. Of the two films, I would say this was probably the one I liked less. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it a hell of a lot. I really enjoyed the first Creed film. I thought that was great. I would say for Creed 2, it's not quite as good as the first one, but it is still a proper solid effort. But if I was going to choose between going and seeing either of these films again, I would go and see Aquaman. But still, it's just down to personal preference, I suppose. If you're into your boxing and you like boxing movies and the Rocky movies, you're not really that into superheroes, you're probably going to like Creed 2 a hell of a lot more, because it is a really, really good, solid film. Now, you all know the basic premise of the film if you've seen any trailers or posters or anything, and it's basically 30 years in the making. You know, you've got Ivan Drago versus Rocky was like 30 years ago, and now Drago's coming back with his son so that his son can fight the son of Apollo Creed, which is our boy Adonis Creed. And it just becomes this whole thing between them, which I have to admit didn't work as well as I was expecting it to. I'll get into why in a minute, but I'd have to say that the biggest comparisons this is probably going to get are between Rocky 4 and this. And I would say it's not really like Rocky 4. Obviously, Rocky 4 is when he fought Drago, but it's a lot less like Rocky 4 and more like Rocky 3. Let me know if you're not following. But Rocky 3 is where Rocky, he's the champ, and Mr. T turns up, and Mr. T's all like, pity the fool who's the champ, or something like that. And then he loses the title to Mr. T because Mr. T beats the crap out of him. And then him and Apollo are like, yeah, Apollo's like, yeah, man, I'll show you how to beat him. And then they run on the beach and they hug on the beach, and it's all very masculine and adrenaline fueled. You can tell I didn't script this one. And yeah, essentially, he then goes on to beat him in the last fight because he finds the right tactic. So it's a bit more like that in structure. Essentially, the first fight, he doesn't lose the first fight because the Drago gets disqualified. But then, after that first fight, there's all the back talk and all the, I really won the fight. No, you didn't. And then there's all the stuff, and then, they have the fight at the end, which is a lot more like Rocky 3 than any of the other Rocky films. Now, the problem is that Rocky 3 was solid in its depiction of who hated who and who wanted to beat who. Mr. T is very flamboyant and he's very much obviously a good actor, well, define good, but he's funny, he's all up in his face giving the trash talk and all that, whereas this isn't really the case with this. Drago in Rocky 4 was very quiet. In this, he's pretty much the same, although he throws a few verbal jabs in there. Your young Drago, though, Victor Drago, doesn't really say much. And I don't know if that's because he's not really an actor, because he's an actual professional boxer. I'm not actually sure if he is or not. I know in the first Creed it was a professional boxer that he fought, but yeah, he doesn't really say a lot, and most of his talking is done through either Dolph Lundgren himself or through their promoter, who, again, doesn't really have a lot to say. So I think that dynamic where you've got to have one hating the other and wanting to really fight each other and beat each other up, it doesn't really work very well, just because you feel like they're not motivated because they want to fight each other. They're motivated because of their own personal hang-ups, which is something that the movie goes into quite a lot on both sides. But of course, that's what makes it different, and that's what actually makes the film interesting. I suppose on Creed's side, you've got everything with his girlfriend, and then the fact that obviously Ivan Drago killed his dad, and that all gets up in his head, and it fucks with his emotions and everything, and that makes the whole thing very emotional for him. And then on the other side with young Victor Drago and Ivan, you've got the idea that after Drago was beaten by Rocky, he was basically cast out by Russia. You know, his wife left him, big Bridget Nielsen, and abandoned him and his child, you know, and they end up in Ukraine for some reason. I don't know a lot about Russia, but they, so they're kind of working on this whole, we need to redeem ourselves in the eyes of our countrymen kind of plot. And that's all very emotional from their side as well. So there are a lot of emotions thrown about in this whole thing. You know, it feels hard to feel sorry too much for the Dragos because of some of the stuff they pull in the movie. But at the same time, you know, they're still human beings. They still have feelings. And, you know, if you're empathetic at all, then you can kind of see where they're coming from. But then, without spoiling too much, there's a lot going on in Adonis Creed's life. And all of that stuff really builds up the emotion. And yeah, by the end of the film, at certain points, you know, you're kind of going through it and you want to cry because it is really, really deep. Especially when he has a lot of heart-to-hearts, either with his girlfriend or with Rocky. And we all know Sylvester Stallone, you know, he might look like a big dribbling galoot, but when it comes to real emotional stuff, he's actually really good at it. And I think that was probably the best stuff about the original Rocky movies. Not the fighting and all that stuff, but the good emotional moments that he had with, you know, with Adrian and with his boy and Paulie and all that sort of stuff. So, and the friendship between him and Apollo, you know, I think all that stuff together is what makes these films great. The boxing is just the kind of glue that holds it all together. I would say the only disappointing thing about this film is that there wasn't enough between the two fighters, you know. It wasn't like those two guys really hated each other, or although they did, but they didn't have a lot of good reason to. It felt like for the whole film, Victor Drago was just kind of like, this is what my dad wants me to do? Okay, I'll do it. I'm kind of testosterone infused. Why not? Let's go beat up a guy. You know, it felt like that, more like he was, you know, his dad was pulling his strings rather than him actually giving a crap about what was going on. So I felt there wasn't a lot of a dynamic there. You know, I think the thing that made the fight, that was used to try and make the fight like interesting, wasn't the conflict between them, but more just the fact that Ivan Drago was a big fucking beast, which he is, to be fair. But very, very superficial reasons for fighting and wanting to, you know, fight back and stuff. And I don't know. It just didn't have the heart of other sort of Rocky movies or the first Creed film, which there was a lot of animosity between Creed and whatever the fuck that guy's name was in the first film, and it was more about Creed himself, really, just wanted to prove it. But in this one, they tried to do you know, two stories. You know, you got Creed's side, then you got Victor's side, and it probably just would have been better if it was just about Creed more than anything, and just him wanting to fuck this guy up because his dad killed his dad, you know, which it obviously that's a plot point, but I don't know, it didn't work as well as I thought it would. I know I've pointed out a lot of things that I don't like about this film, but I did really like it. I did really enjoy it. It's easier for me to say bad things about something than nice things. I don't know if that's just my nature, but I did really enjoy it. You know, the emotional stuff was really, you know, really heavy. The acting was really well done. The fights were well choreographed. I would say Sylvester Stallone was great. You know, the usual stuff he does is, you know, brilliant, because you always forget that he is such a good actor just because of what he's done, and you know, he's mostly been in action films and stuff. But when you look at the action films that he has done, even those, you know, Rambo is about like a guy who's got serious, you know, PTSD, and he plays that really well. You know, Sylvester Stallone in Rocky, you know, yeah, he's a big stupid boxer, but he's got a lot of heart, and he really loves his wife and all that stuff, and he does all that really well. And I think you know, people forget that Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky, didn't he, and he directed it, I think, and I don't know if he continues to do that to this day, but he was just really, really good. You know, overall, I would say he was the best performance of the film. He holds it all together, even though, don't get me wrong, everyone else was good. I would say that probably the you know, the weakest performance was from Victor Drago. Not because he was bad, but just because I don't think he was given much to work with. I don't know about the guy, if he's a real actor or not, or if he's just a boxer. He certainly looks like a boxer, you know, he's a fucking beast. But Yeah, I don't think he was given a lot really to do, although there are a few moments where he is really, really good. But I suppose that's just one of the pitfalls you fall into when you're trying to do a real feeling boxing movie, because you have to find real boxers, and those guys aren't always going to be great actors. But still, it was great. You know, I really enjoyed it, and I would have to say, as a final verdict, I would have to give this one a knockout. It was really good. It was enjoyable to watch. If you like the Rocky movies, you'll definitely like it. If you enjoyed the first Creed film, you'll definitely like it as well. If you're not too into boxing or any of these kinds of films, I would say, if you're not that fussed about going to see it, then probably don't go and see something else instead, because there are a lot of good movies out just now. But it was enjoyable. I really liked it. Definitely was better than Rocky 5, which is not hard. And I would say overall it was probably better than Rocky 3, which is the one I would probably compare it most to. I think Mr. T was a better opponent than Victor Creed, but overall the movie was better, I would say. So yeah, that about sums it up. I hope you enjoyed this review. Once again, if you haven't seen the review for Aquaman, go back and watch it. There'll be a link appearing in the cards or something, or maybe at the end of this video. I don't know. Yeah, just subscribe for more reviews and more videos and general crap, and hit the bell if you want to get a notification every time one of my videos is uploaded. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook. I have Twitter, which I don't really use much, and I'm also on Twitch apparently. Yeah, I've still got an account on Twitch, even though I haven't streamed in about 4 years or something like that. So yeah, don't follow me on Twitch. But yeah, thanks again for watching. Really appreciate you guys. Have yourselves a fantastic day. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.